Hey everybody, this is my 40-gallon Brackish tank, my figure 8 puffer Butterbean. Just got a water change and he's upset. He's all fussing around in the back of the tank. He's always stressed out after a water change. He gets stressed out over pretty much everything. So I had completely forgotten a couple of days ago. I'd gone to the big chain pet store and they gave me a whole huge bag of snails to bring home, and I stripped out and cleaned my snail tank and got that sterilized. I had a bunch of planaria worms in there. So once that was cleaned out, I put most of the snails in that tank, but I did keep some in a bag. And these, let's see if we can see them on camera. I don't know if you can see the silhouette of them or not. It's maybe a dozen or maybe up to 20, something like that. We're going to go ahead and dump them in. I don't know if Butterbean's going to go after them right away. We might have to cut scene and come back in a little while once he's calmed down and has found them. But effectively here we're going to try to do some feeding video of Butterbean eating some snails. And the idea is to put more in there than he even knows are in there. And then that way they'll be in the tank for him and he can hunt for them and forage for them. And in the meantime, they'll also be in there eating algae and doing their snail thing. So I don't have all of them out of here yet. Still don't have all of them out of there. And I think that is all of them. If not, I will put these in the snail tank. So now I need to put the lid back on, and the seam on this hood is broken, so I actually have to gently lift the whole front piece here. Try to put it down without making too much banging noise. I've had it slip out of my fingers before and drop. Hate doing that. Alright. So let's give him a few minutes to settle down, and we'll be right back with a little bit of him feeding on some snails close up. It took him a few minutes, but he found them. He crunches those shells up like they're oyster crackers. And that is the whole purpose of feeding him snails and shelled food, crustaceans of any sort. Krill will work. I know I say this all the time, but if you've never seen Butterbean before, you're not familiar with puffers, they have teeth plates that grow in a similar fashion to the way rodents grow. They just continually grow, and they need to be worn down by eating hard-shelled food. So snails, shrimp, the freeze-dried krill, that's his main food. But tonight we threw a bunch of snails in there for the reason of giving him some enrichment. That gives him some things to do during the day. It gives him stuff to look for. I probably overdid it a little bit. He's going to hunt them all down until he's big and fat again. But if you followed along with Butterbean long enough, you know there's been times where he's looking like he swallowed a golf ball or something. So he's capable of eating quite a lot and getting big and puffy. Now that's not to say puffed as far as a puffer goes, but big and puffy as far as they're very elastic, so they can eat and eat and eat. And you got to be careful, actually. If you've got a puffer, you can very easily overfeed them. They will just keep eating, and they can actually do damage to themselves by eating so much because they are so elastic for, fairly obvious reasons. So I'm happy to say, in all the time I've had him, I've seen his stomach really dark gray, which is a sign that they're stressed out, but I have never actually seen him puffed up. So I'm happy to say that. Now, I have heard people say that some puffers will just puff occasionally in the same way, you know, we might yawn occasionally to just sort of stretch out our lungs and get everything reinflated and make sure it's all in working order. So that's possible that puffers will do that, just sort of puff up from time to time. But I read an article that studied the fish's oxygen consumption, and apparently for up to 5 hours after these fish puffed, their oxygen consumption was up to 3 times normal rate or 5 times normal rate. It was enough that it indicated that the stress was long lasting after the puffing incident. Now I'm assuming to get them to puff they did something, you know, in the tank to stress them out, maybe a little electrical jolt or who knows, but they caused them to puff, and then they monitored their heart rate and their oxygen consumption and that sort of thing. And apparently it's quite stressful for these animals to puff up and then, you know, deflate again. So, you know, if you've got a puffer, please don't poke at it and try to get it to puff up. I've heard people say that, and I have people ask me from time to time if I've ever seen him puffed, and like I say, I'm kind of happy to say that I have not. So he's going to just keep on cruising around the tank. Let's see, maybe he found a few more. We can zoom back in. So there's a bunch of them in there. You saw how many I dropped in there. He's just going to keep on hunting and making his way around the tank, and, you know, as he finds them, he'll probably eat them. Hopefully at some point he'll either reach his fill or he'll simply get tired of hunting around the tank looking for them, and then there'll be some left over tomorrow. I might skip a feeding tomorrow. I do skip a feeding from time to time, especially if he's had a really big feeding. If I come in tomorrow and he's got a big round belly and he looks all big and fat and full, he can go a day without a feeding. In fact, most fish, you know, it doesn't hurt them to skip a day of feeding from time to time. So he's a fun fish to watch. I keep wanting to end the video, but he keeps just swimming around the tank doing his thing, and that's just awesome watching puffers swim around. They're really unique fish. I recommend them all the time if you've got a little more experience as a fish keeper. If you're willing to set up a brackish environment and you think you can handle all that, it's not that big a deal. It really isn't. But you do need a little bit of experience at keeping fish. But if you can get a puffer, please do. You will love it. Once you get a puffer, you'll just fall in love with them and you'll never want to not have a puffer again. They're just amazing little fish. So there you go. As I said, he's just going to cruise around the tank doing his thing, hunting the snails. He's got nice fresh water. Now that doesn't mean it's fresh water. It is brackish water, but it is nice, fresh, brand new water in the sense that I just did a water change. In fact, I'm going to have to keep an eye on the bucket. I've got the water sitting in a bucket. I use my 5-gallon bucket on this tank. I don't use my big siphon hose. And I'll have to make sure I didn't accidentally suck up any of the ghost shrimp that I put in there. I actually did put quite a few ghost shrimp in this tank not too long ago, and I saw several of them in there tonight, and I forgot they were in there, to tell you the truth. And when I was using the siphon, I don't use my gravel vac. I just use a siphon hose so I can siphon up any shells or anything that are on the bottom, and it really draws a hard siphon out of there. It draws a lot of water out of there quickly. And it's quite possible that I could have sucked up some of those shrimp without even noticing it. They're called ghost shrimp for a reason, or sometimes they're called glass shrimp, but they're clear. They're very hard to see. So we'll check the bucket tomorrow, see if I got any shrimp swimming around in there. I'll pluck them out and put them back in the tank. In the meantime, I'm going to say thanks for watching. I'm really going to end it this time. Don't forget, this one is my Brackish Tank. Thanks again. I hope you enjoyed it, and me and Butterbean will see you real soon in the next one.